My water just broke.
Camera follows me, and I'm like, dude, I got a wife in labor. I'm not gonna sit here kissing my girlfriend. It's just awkward.
Hello everyone, my name is Brittany. I'm a sucker for a reality television show, and I am currently reading Christine Brown Woolley's new book, Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom. Today, I'm going to be talking about chapters 10 through 13, and if you're wondering how I decide when to stop or how many chapters do I talk about in a video, I literally have no real rhyme or reason. I just decide to stop reading when I find something to be really interesting, and then I come and make a video. So today, that was chapter 13. That was the chapter where I was like, God, this is a good place to stop. But let's start off by talking about chapter 10. It is titled The LDS Church's Bastard Children. Most of the stuff I wrote down about this is just a bunch of random things. You know, Christine loves public speaking. She was involved with Principal Voices. She wanted to educate the public about polygamy. She had some fairly decent arguments in defense of making polygamy legal. One of her big things was people will not call the police or emergency services when they're needed if they're polygamous because they fear their family being broken up. And if this is legal, that will stop. People will be more willing to call emergency services. This will help prevent child abuse. And I mean, that's a decent argument, right? She also talked about how we live in a world where affairs and open marriages are acceptable. That's okay, so why isn't polygamy? So she made some arguments in this chapter in defense of polygamy that weren't the worst arguments. She also talked about them doing the show, and they met, at this point, they're meeting with Tim Gibbons, the producer. They told him that if they did this, it needed to be more than a documentary because they could possibly lose their jobs. So just doing a documentary wasn't going to cut it for them. They needed it to be bigger than that. They needed more income, which is something I don't remember that being in the first book, but that makes sense. I mean, once they came out public, everything was going to change for them. There might have been other stuff in that chapter, but none of it really stood out to me as something that was big or something I didn't know. So that's all that I wrote down, all my notes for that one. Chapter 11 is titled, You Have to Meet Her, and you guys know who the her is in that chapter title. So in chapter 11, we find out that Mary and Janelle were more open to a new wife than Christine, which is not surprising at all. I really think Christine believed being the third wife was going to mean she was the last wife. So I think she wasn't as open. And she also said what I have always said on this channel, it had been too long. If they were going to have that fourth wife enter the family, it should have happened earlier. It should have happened before all the kids were born. Not necessarily all of them, but in the earlier years when the kids were babies. Bringing someone in 16 years after Christine just made that person not a part of the family history, and Christine brings that up in this chapter. This is the chapter where Robyn is introduced. We find out that Mary really hyped her up. Mary was all about it. Not at all surprising. I think Mary was looking for a friend, and I think she thought it was going to be Robyn. We are reminded of the fact that Janelle and Mary met Robyn before Christine, and Cody even had this testimony that he was supposed to marry her before Christine had met her. I just want to point out the amount of pressure Christine must have felt to agree to all of this. You know, you have Mary who thinks Robyn's great, Janelle who's okay with it, Cody who now believes the sign from God has came his way. He is supposed to marry Robyn, and then Christine's like, hold on, wait guys, I haven't met her yet. Imagine the pressure she must have felt. And they were all encouraged to be submissive, right? Agree with him. Go along with it. Push down all those feelings you have that might tell you that this is wrong. Push down your intuition. Ignore all the feelings. Go along with what Cody and the other wives want. That's a lot of pressure. And then as Cody is courting her, he's driving there every weekend. He already has a bazillion children, 3 wives, but now he's gone every weekend. So this is just the beginning, right? This is just the beginning of Cody making one person a priority. There was one more part of this chapter that stood out to me, and it's sort of funny because I don't think it was meant to be significant, but it was to me. Christine is writing about Cody getting ready to go see Robyn, and she's pregnant with Truly, and she's very emotional, of course. And she starts to get upset because she's heartbroken. Her husband is going to spend time with another woman instead of spending time with her and their family. So she says, she writes in the book, I'm sure he just wanted to feel excited and to spend time with Robyn, but he took the time to make sure I was okay. Yeah, that's like the least he could do. The actual sensible thing to do would go, oh, maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't be leaving my pregnant wife to go meet another woman and possibly marry her. Like, to me, this is the least Cody could do was stop and check in on his wives, specifically the pregnant one. But she saw this as a positive. Like, he's taking the time to check on me before he goes. And this is just a world I don't understand. Every time I read something like this, I am shocked that there are as many people as there are that will go along with it. Even though most people aren't polygamist, I'm surprised anyone wants to do it. It just shows you if you grow up in a cult, and I am going to use the word cult here, they can really get to you and you can believe just about anything and put up with just about anything. All right, jumping ahead to chapter 12. The title of chapter 12 is, this is in the section called Wife, so we're moving into a new section of the book. This chapter is called You'll Have Some Great Home Videos. One of the first things I wrote down is that Christine mentions how TLC loved the idea of the show because it appeared very wholesome. And I'm like, man, that is just the way TLC is. They bring us these shows where they want to present something that's unusual and give us all the reasons that it's actually okay. The Duggars, the Bates, John and Kate plus 8, Sister Wives. All shows that in the beginning you would watch them and go, oh, well, look at that. You know, they have a bazillion children, more wives than they need, but they're okay. It's okay, right? Like, they're all right. They're probably doing better than the rest of us. That's how it looks. And then later on, you're like, oh no, I don't think so. You know, I've made videos about the Delamottes, and a lot of people, it was probably the videos where I got the most pushback. People were mad at me for being critical of that family, but it was less about me being critical and more me saying, hey, you know, when you end up on TLC, things are going to go wrong, because that is what happens when you end up on TLC. You need to think long and hard before you get your money from that network, because they're not going to come to you for things being lovely and peachy. There's something boiling under the surface. Anyway, focusing back on Sister Wives. She said that TLC liked the wholesomeness of the show. I definitely fell for it. I've talked about it before. I remember watching Sister Wives and going, wow, look at them. They really are just like a normal family. Now I'm like, man, I was a fool. The first season of the show was rough. Christine says she broke down a lot. I'm like, of course you did. You were pregnant. Your man's off with another woman. Of course. There is a story she tells about where they did a photo shoot for Cody. It included Robyn. So it was Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn. They do this photo shoot. Janelle decides not to wear makeup. They give Cody the photo, and Cody wants to know why she wasn't wearing makeup. That's what Cody looks at it and says. So all of this stuff we know about Cody, where he seems sort of vain and he wants the women done up, it's true. I believe it. I think it's obvious. Cody's just like that, even about himself. And with that sports car, and she talks about the sports car. She brings that up. Hold on, is that a sports car? Does that fall into sports car category? The little convertible that we all see on the show. She brings that up. Christine mentions that they worked hard to keep the hard stuff off of the show because there was going to be consequences, right? If they brought up something that made them uncomfortable on the show, then it would air. They would have to relive it. They might leave the couch sessions and have to talk about that stuff later. So they really tried not to present the difficult stuff. One positive change that came from the show that surprised me and I never really thought about was the fact that after the show aired, Janelle and Christine got to be official wives. Prior to this, they were always trying to hide that they were with Cody, but once the show was out there was no turning back, and the world knew they were married to him. So that really changed things for them. Christine points out that when the show started, things in their family were mostly fair. So Cody was still being mostly fair with his time. Things felt okay. And that's my last notes for chapter 12 for me. Again, if you guys are reading this, let me know what you thought, if there's anything you picked up on the chapters that stood out. But chapter 13 is really where it changes. And chapter 13 is titled, Just Be Present. So the first thing I wrote for chapter 13 is Cody is spending every weekend with Robyn. So their family time on the weekend has stopped at this point. Peyton picks up on things being unfair. He notices that Cody and Robyn are taking her children to KFC all the time, and they don't get to go out to eat. The Browns, the original Browns, don't get to go have fast food. They probably, I'm assuming, don't have the money for fast food. They're struggling, and taking that many kids out to get food is just not happening. Peyton picks up on the fact that Robyn and her kids are doing that. And then he says they do it all the time. They're doing this frequently. It's not just a treat. It's something that they're doing again and again. So Peyton is picking up on it, and Christine points out that it seemed Peyton was able to do that. He was able to see that there was unfair treatment before the other people in the family could see it. But there's this part of me that thinks they all probably were able to notice it, but because they were taught to squash those feelings down, they weren't acknowledging it. Around this time, Christine is realizing that her values don't really align with their church's values anymore, which is interesting. She gave her mom a hard time for leaving the church, but here she is realizing that she doesn't have the same values anymore. We also find out that Christine felt the loneliest in the Lehigh house. She talks about being in the basement, how it felt being down there. She was a basement wife, right? She felt very lonely there. As she is pregnant with Truly, she makes this decision that she wants to work off her debts. She doesn't want to have any debt when Truly is born. That way she can stay home with her. This is where we get that infamous story about Cody. She asks him if he can put the kids to bed because he's in the same flipping house, you guys. Walk to her apartment, walk down to the basement, open the door and put the kids to bed. No, he cannot do it. He tells her she needs to go ask her sister wives, who are also working and juggling a bunch of other kids. I think it's absolutely deplorable, but he says that he cannot do it. So who does it? Aspen. Aspen was 11 years old, reading them bedtime stories and tucking them into bed. And this is a turning point for Christine because she is done. She realizes then he is not a good father. He's not a good partner. She can't count on him. So this changes things. The intimacy is really over, and she realizes they have a non-functioning marriage. This is not good. So this is where it goes back to her mom a little bit. She felt like when her mom left her dad, it was a failure. They failed, and she doesn't want to be a failure. So even though her marriage isn't working and Cody is just a jerk, she's going to stay because she doesn't want to be a failure. And she's made this religious commitment to him, right? God is involved, eternity. She does not want to fail at all of this. Christine also looks back on all of the stuff that happened and realized so much of her hurt with Robyn really probably just came from the fact that Cody loved Robyn. He really loved her. So she was getting all the attention. She was getting treated better. It really was Cody that was the problem. So Christine brings up something in this chapter that I didn't even realize was an issue, and that is the clothes they are wearing. They're trying to dress modestly, so they're layering clothes, which wasn't uncommon at the time. That was even something I remember here where I live. I remember layering clothes. There was a time people did a lot of that. But if you look back, they would layer a turtleneck under a spaghetti strap shirt. Like, their layering was a little bit more intense. Christine says they dress modestly and they tended to look a little bit frumpier than Robyn. Robyn entered the family and she dressed trendier. She would wear heels, and that wasn't something that they did. So Robyn enters the family and all of a sudden they realize, oh, we could be dressing like that. Like, that's acceptable. And then not only is she entering the family dressing a little bit better, a little bit trendier, Cody is giving her all of his attention. With this comes those famous engagement photos. She specifically writes about the one where they're leaning against the car. I guess it was posted online before they actually got the photos back. This ended up being a bit of drama in the family. This is one of those times I can only assume it's something I can't quite understand because I'm not a polygamist. To me, they just look like engagement photos. Was it appropriate? Heck if I know. Like, I think marrying someone when you're already married isn't an appropriate thing to do. So you're already doing it. Like, go ahead and get the engagement photos, right? Why stop there? But the photos were upsetting to the original wives. So I told you guys I wanted to stop at chapter 13 and make the video because it's where I felt like there was stuff I just wanted to talk about. The next few things absolutely blow my mind still, even though some of them happened on the show. The first thing, Truly's birth, we know what happened. I made a short here. I've talked about it on the channel before. Truly is being born. Christine is at the hospital. This is her first hospital birth. She has never done it before. She needs her bags. Cody's supposed to go get them. You guys know exactly what happens. She thinks it's going to be fast. He's going to go and get Aspen, get the bags, and be back. But no, he goes to check on Robyn, and the camera crew made sure to film it all. And you can't tell me they didn't know. They know Christina's at the hospital giving birth to a baby. She's never been in a hospital before. He has left to go see Robyn, and they made sure to get that kiss. So, I think the camera crew knew. And when Christine sees it, she says it absolutely gutted her. We also see Cody decide to talk to the doctor about Mary's fertility issues while Christine is in labor. We find out that this bothered Christine, and it also made Mary very mad because he should have been focusing on Christine in that moment, and he did not need to go there in front of that camera crew and talk about that without Mary being present. But going a little bit further with this, we find out that after she had given birth to Truly, she asked Cody to spend an extra night with her, but he declined. But we aren't done yet, you guys. She gives us more in chapter 13. It's like, if you don't think Cody Brown is a jerk yet, let me tell you more. On her 10th anniversary, she asked Cody to add a diamond chip, yes, she uses the word chip, to the Claudia ring that he had given her. He had already added diamond chips to Janelle's and Mary's. He says no, they don't have the money for that. Later, she found out that Robyn got a diamond added to one of her old rings. Of course, this is devastating, as it would be for anyone. She brings this up to Cody, and you know exactly what he does. He tells her she shouldn't be comparing. Reading this part of the book made me furious. I was absolutely so angry, but there was also this part of me that was so sad for Christine because of the amount of time. If she has this laid out correctly, and she asked for that diamond chip at her 10th anniversary, that means it was at least another 6 years, before the situation with Robyn and the ring that's mentioned. So for 6 years, she knew that Mary and Janelle had the diamond added to the Claudia ring. Then she goes even longer and realizes Robyn has a diamond. This is years and years and years of her life. She has this little bit of knowledge stuck somewhere in her mind, and I'm sure she's trying to push it away and not think about it, but let's get real. It's there. So every single time something else happens, some other fight, some other moment that Cody doesn't really show love or affection, she has that also in the back of her mind. That's really years and years of sadness. So yeah, she threw the ring in a field. If I remember that part of the book correctly, she said she wished she didn't do it. But I can't blame her. I probably would have done it too. The last bit of notes I have in this chapter relate to Christine having postpartum depression. This was after the birth of Truly. She doesn't say that Cody stepped up and helped. She said it was her kids. Her kids stepped up and helped, specifically Aspen. So Aspen had to mother all of the younger children because Cody Brown was once again a failure as a husband and a father. So this is where I feel like we're getting to, we know it though, but we're really getting to see it in the book. But I think we all know it. We're just hearing Christine say it. Yeah, so that's it. I can't help it. Chapter 13, I was like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what we thought we were going to hear, but we're finally getting it in the book. So I stopped. I made a video. You guys, let me know down in the comments what you thought about this chapter or any of the other ones. You can let me know down below. And if you haven't already, I hope you will click like and subscribe and come back to Happily Ever Reality.